Just on behalf of Father Bodine and everyone here at St. Peter's, we just want to warmly welcome all family and friends and visitors this morning. It was Sunday, January 14th, 2018. The Vikings were playing the Saints in a divisional playoff game. And I was on my way to the Boston area for a silent retreat when the game was on. What was I thinking? The Vikings went up 17-0 in first half, eventually 17-7, then as Viking fans know all too well, 17-14. I was on the plane when they were about to kick a field goal or attempt a field goal, and you know how you can't check your phone and things when the plane, so I'm waiting for the plane to land so I can finally turn my phone on. They made the field goal 20-14. And I'm in the airport, and they have the game on in the airport, and I'm thinking, I wonder if I should stay in the airport and watch the rest of the game. But I had told this retreat center that I would be there at a certain time. So I'm like, okay, I gotta keep going. So I get into an Uber, I'm checking the game. Then with 3 minutes, 1 second left in the game, the Saints took their first lead, 21-20. Then, true to form, the Vikings kicked a field goal, leaving enough time for their opponent to come back. 1:29 left in the game. They're up 23-21. I'm in the Uber, it's maybe 6:45, whatever, 7. I pull up to the retreat center, and it's kind of like a mansion type thing, and I get out of the car, and I'm like knocking, doorbell, like no one comes, so I just like eventually go in. And I'm like waiting around, and there's like 3 minutes left in the game, and I'm like wanting to get back to the game, and finally like the head of the retreat center like meets me, and he's like trying to make small talk, and I'm like, fine. How are you? Good. Would you like a tour of the retreat? No. Could we do it tomorrow? Could we do it tomorrow? I had missed dinner at this retreat center, and so they had made dinner for me that I could like heat up and just sit at the dinner table by myself. And it's a silent retreat center, so no talking. And so I'm looking at my phone, and I'm just getting updates. You know how you have to like swipe the phone down so you can get like the updates? Okay. And my friend and I from seminary, we call it the Minnesota buy-in. It's not that they get blown out. It's that it looks like they're gonna win. And then they blow it at the end. And so I'm sitting at the dinner table doing the updates, and then the Saints drive down the field in just 64 seconds, making a 43-yard field goal, putting them up 24-23 with just 25 seconds remaining in the game. At some point, I texted my friend and I said, it's happening again. It's happening again. At this moment, what is the situation? What is the existential situation of every single Vikings fan? Despair. It happened again. We almost had it. Keenum brought them to our own 39-yard line. 3rd and 10 with 10 seconds remaining. I'm watching the phone. And you know what happened. I couldn't believe my eyes after the update. 29, 24? What? I seriously could not believe it. And then after it sunk in, the kitchen area was kind of connected to this really cool fireplace area, and there were two priests on silent retreat in the fireplace area. And I went out and I said, "Are you guys on silence?" And one of the priests was like, "Eh." And I went, "Yeah! Yeah!" And they were like, "What happened?" I couldn't contain myself. Praise God, the retreat started for me the next day. You can't watch YouTube and stuff when you're on silent retreat. So that night, I was watching that play over and over. It seemed like it was from God. He ran into his own player. It was such a surprise. The next day when I met up with the retreat master, I said, "Sorry for being so short." He said, "I thought you were just really hungry." What is Christianity? What is Christianity all about? Some people perhaps think that Christianity is just a cultural thing. I was raised this way. I'm Irish, so I'm Catholic. I'm Italian, so I'm Catholic. I'm Mexican, so I'm Catholic. Sometimes we can think that Christianity is just an institution, something that has just a bunch of rules and regulations and rituals. Maybe perhaps people can think that Christianity is just a social organization, like any other social organization where, you and I can meet people. Or it's just about being a good person, and that's all that really matters. Just help me be a good person. None of those things is what Christianity is essentially about. What it really means to be a Christian. Christianity is an event. It is the good news. What is a good news? A good news is something that arrives to you at a concrete moment in your experience, in your life, in a moment, and it transforms you, changes you, even just by hearing it. Marathons are becoming super popular nowadays. And if the story's right, the story goes, the Persians are attacking Athens. And the leader of the Persians wants to burn Athens to the ground. Hates them. And so he amasses an army, perhaps about 2.5 times the size of the Athenian army, with many recruits on the ships. Many more people on the ships to come in. What do you think, imagine with me for a moment, what do you think the situation was, the existential situation of the Athenian people back in the city, to hear that an army was coming towards you that was 2.5 times greater in size, and they hated you. They wanted to burn your city to the ground. What do you think their existential situation was? It must have been a huge anxiety for them. If they lost, they could be slaughtered, maltreated, worse. And as so it happens in history, the Athenians actually end up winning, and one of the soldiers decides to get up and run back to Athens to announce the good news that they had won. And so he runs 22 to 26 plus miles, whatever. And as he gets there, he gets to the city and he says, "We have won. We have won. We have won." And he collapses and dies. What do you think was the existential response of the Athenian people as soon as they heard that good news? It would have totally changed them. They would have been filled with joy. It would have been a news they couldn't keep to themselves. Imagine you were a French person living in France under the Nazi occupation. And you were in a small village just outside of Normandy. And after the Allies had landed and they made progress in, you heard about it. Someone came to you and said, "The Allies are here. The Allies are here. The Allies have a foothold. The war is still going on, but your situation is different. Your situation has changed. You're filled with hope." Perhaps a little more close to home, I don't know where you are today, but what if you had a terminal illness, or you know someone who has a terminal illness, and you go to doctor after doctor after doctor, and each doctor cannot help you, and your situation in your heart, in your emotions, in your psychology gets more and more depressed when you have to come face to face with the reality of your own mortality. And then finally you get to see a doctor and they say, "Actually, there's a different treatment. I think we can cure you." You haven't even done the treatment yet, and you're changed just by hearing the good news. Or if you needed an organ or something, and you received it. Christianity is an event. It's the good news. You see, you and I were in a situation that filled us with a huge anxiety. A situation that on our own, you and I cannot rectify. You and I cannot change. No matter how good your life is now, you know, and maybe you don't want to know, it will end. No matter how good your life is now, and we hope that it's good, you know, deep down, even if you don't want to know it, it's coming to an end. Perhaps much sooner than you'd like. And so we're stuck in this situation that we can't change. And how does God respond? With a surprise. He sends us his Son, who preaches, teaches, heals, performs miracles, suffers, and dies. And if that was the end, you and I would not be here today. The event, the good news, is that that's not the end. He rose. And as soon as you and I get to hear that the situation all of us find ourselves in, namely our own mortality that we can't escape, isn't the final, isn't the end, we're changed. We're different. That's why we keep announcing it. That's why you and I keep passing it on. The Vikings would have won whether or not I knew it. There was an event, a victory. But I was changed when I heard the good news. An organ could be sent. It was an event. But if I needed that organ to live, I wouldn't yet have been changed until I heard the good news. The Allies could have landed, but I could be stuck in despair and depression and anxiety until I heard the good news. And so today, by God's grace, you and I find ourselves here this morning to hear that good news. Wherever you are, maybe you've been away from church or from God for a long time. Welcome. Maybe you're sick, even terminally sick. Maybe you've lost a job. Maybe one of your kids is suffering. Maybe your marriage is struggling. All of these things are like little deaths that fill us with anxiety. And you and I need to hear a good news. The good news, which if you let it, will change you. The two priests that I got to tell the good news of the Vikings' victory to weren't necessarily changed. One of them might have been a Pittsburgh fan or something like this, okay. But I was changed. I actually thought, like, this is going to be the year we're going to win the Super Bowl. Only true to form, then we got crushed by the Eagles, okay. All right. So that you and I could place our hope in God and not in the Vikings. Today, how are you hearing the good news that Jesus is risen? Last point, Peter says that he got to eat with the risen Jesus. What would that have been like? And then he goes out and tells people about it. And those people tell people. And those people tell people. All the way down through the centuries until someone told me. And now I'm telling you. Jesus Christ is risen from the dead. And that gives you and me hope. Wherever you are, it doesn't have to be the end. God has won. God has won. God has won.